Hello everyone, welcome to Madrid Pulse. You got source of latest news, events, and everything happens in heart of Spain. 2 weeks that changed everything. Mastantuono, 6 years in white. The opinion of the young Argentine player has been decisive in his final signing for Real Madrid, when it seemed he would go to PSG. A signature operation, with a first and last name, it's better to have two. On one side, Franco Mastantuono, and on the other, Uni Calafat. But before continue, make sure you have already subscribed for getting more Real Madrid updates. Let's dive in. The former decided that his agents had to do everything possible to sign for Real Madrid. The latter, against all odds, traveled to Buenos Aires and got the player's approval as a preliminary step to closing a deal with River Plate, something that will become official next week, once the player passes his medical at the White Club. Once again, the player's opinion has been decisive in turning around a situation that has kept him away from Real Madrid for a year. Mastantuono facilitated a trip by his agents to Europe to try to make a final contact with Real Madrid, and he succeeded by re-establishing communication that had been severed by an unexpected move regarding the future of the youngest player to debut for the Argentine national team. Real Madrid's directors wanted to verify this time that everything the agents were telling them was true. Uni Calafat boarded a plane, traveled to Buenos Aires, and got the player's approval. The next step was, and still is, since it hasn't been signed, sealing the deal with River Plate. The understanding between the footballer and Real Madrid speaks of a 6-year commitment, which will become effective at the end of the Club World Cup, although River Plate wants and has asked the White Club that Mastantuono remain in the team from Núñez, a neighborhood of Buenos Aires, and which is the location of the historic Argentine club, until the end of the Libertadores. Real Madrid and River Plate already have an agreement in principle under which the 45 million release clause would be paid in 4 installments. Nothing is finalized, but there is a full understanding between the two entities, considered friends, as demonstrated by the recent appearance of the Argentine club's president in the Bernabeu box. At Valdebebas, it was difficult to understand the move made a year ago, which resulted in the player's contract being extended and his buyout clause tripled. Now they've forgotten what happened and are focused on securing the signing of a coveted player who is tipped to become a future world star in Argentina. River Plate's next Copa Libertadores match will take place on August 15th against Paraguayan side, Libertad. The Argentine team believes they have a strong chance of winning the coveted tournament, which they last won at the Bernabeu in their 2018 clash with Boca Juniors. Other teams have fallen by the wayside. In fact, 5 days ago, the player's destination was PSG, but even the allure of winning the last Champions League hasn't been enough to fully convince Mastantuono, who has been instrumental in turning things around unexpectedly. The deal proves that Real Madrid isn't just driven by the urgency of the Club World Cup, it goes beyond that, and that their strategy remains in place, which is none other than signing young talent, the kind that's good for a decade. Huijsen has already proven that, and Mastantuono will be able to do so soon. Meanwhile, they need to continue finding players who are capable of waiting a season beyond the end, and the agreement is seen as a major coup for the club's future planning. The turning point in the deal came this past week when Xabi Alonso, expected to take over as Real Madrid head coach in 2026 after Carlo Ancelotti's tenure ends, personally reached out to Mastantuono. The former Real Sociedad and Liverpool legend held an extensive conversation with the young Argentine winger, outlining his vision for how the teenager would be integrated into the future Real Madrid project. Alonso's influence was reportedly decisive. According to Cadena SAR, Mastantuono had been leaning toward a move to Real Madrid since the beginning, having even reached an agreement in principle months ago. But when PSG unexpectedly activated negotiations and showed willingness to pay his full €45 million release clause, it forced Los Blancos back into action. In response, Real Madrid dispatched their influential head scout Juni Calafat to Buenos Aires to directly negotiate the terms with River Plate. The club was initially hesitant to pay the full clause, particularly after feeling burned by Mastantuono's decision last year to sign a new contract that raised his release fee from an earlier figure to 45 million euros. This had previously prompted Real Madrid to walk away from the deal, famously stating, "We'll sign him when he's actually worth what the clause says." That moment, it seems, has now arrived. The young winger's meteoric rise through the River Plate system has justified the valuation. His performances in Argentina's top flight, paired with his maturity, technique, and vision on the ball, have made him one of the most sought-after teenagers in the game. During a recent tour of Europe by his agents, clubs like Manchester City and PSG made strong advances, with the French side going as far as initiating direct talks and placing a lucrative offer on the table. Luis Enrique even made a personal call to the player in a bid to convince him to move to Paris. But the combination of Alonso's direct approach, the strong reputation of Juni Calafat in South American talent acquisition, and Real Madrid's prestige proved too powerful to resist. Mastantuono's agents are also reportedly linked with Alonso's public relations firm, further smoothing the path toward Madrid. Spanish outlet Diario AS confirmed this week that Mastantuono has halted all discussions with PSG and other clubs, choosing instead to wait for Real Madrid to finalize the deal. That moment has now come, with Real Madrid having reached a verbal agreement with the player and his representatives. The remaining steps involve structuring a payment plan with River Plate for the 45 million euro release clause, as the Spanish club is reluctant to pay it all at once. The Argentine side has insisted on the clause being met, but has shown willingness to allow Mastantuono to depart only after the Club World Cup later this year. That means the 17-year-old is likely to remain in South America until early 2026, at which point he would link up with Real Madrid in Spain, potentially under the guidance of Alonso himself. For Real Madrid, this signing continues their aggressive push to secure the best young talent in the world before they explode onto the global stage. Just as they beat Barcelona to the signing of Arda Güler 2 years ago, Real Madrid have now once again outmaneuvered elite rivals for a next-generation talent. The signing of Mastantuono further reinforces the long-term vision at the club. With Jude Bellingham, Arda Güler, Endrick, and now Mastantuono forming a core of elite youth talent, Real Madrid's future looks as bright as its storied past. The era of Galacticos continues, but this time it's built on world-class youth. With Mastantuono now secured, the attention will turn to how Real Madrid plans to manage his development. But with his admiration for the club and Alonso's guidance, the Argentine wonderkid looks set to thrive in white.